So the Big Leon deal is now official. 5 players have departed the club officially. Who are the next out of the door? And why should Rangers be buying more Scottish players? We've got a couple to look at in this video that I do think could be future stars for the club. To add into obviously our domestic talents, the likes of Robbie Fraser, for example, Ross McCausland, et al. Well, welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation. I'm your host, Owen James. This is the channel that brings you your team daily, news and opinion every single day, podcast, everything, guys, all for nothing, unless obviously you want to join the academy. Join the academy, no, join call an academy, I suppose. Join as a member, or obviously pledge a little bit of money through the super thanks button. Thank you for watching anyway. Right, so let's obviously get into this. Let's get talking, and where better to start than with one of my top favorite players who has agreed a new deal. And we did bring you the news of this earlier, obviously last month, but it is now official. Yes, Big Leon is now officially a Rangers player for a further season. I know it's a one that's kind of divided the fans a little bit. I know there's those fans that are kind of thinking that it's he's 35 years old. What else can he bring? He's part of that squad from last season that didn't do so well, and and all that. But I think there's other fans that say this is a good signing, a good solid signing, and look, I'm on that side. I've got to say I like this signing. I like the acquisition of Big Leon on a further 1-year contract. Now, let me tell you a little bit why I like Big Leon on a further 1-year contract. Number one, you cannot throw out all the players. Now, we have obviously got rid of 5 players yesterday, which was officially confirmed by the club. That news that obviously Borna Barisic, thank goodness, Ryan Jack, John Lundstrom, John McLaughlin, and Kemar Roof had all left the club after their contracts expired. No new deals handed out, despite rumours to the contrary. It was interesting, obviously, the Big Leon was not on that, and then it followed later in the day that did come out. Big Leon said, "I'm very, very happy and privileged to be able to extend my contract at a club like Rangers. I have said in the past, I wish I could have been here sooner in my career because it fuels the fire to succeed all the time." And I think it's ultimately very clear, if nothing else, in that quote itself, that Big Leon loves being a Rangers player. He loves this club. This is his club. He's Rangers to the core. He's a proper Blue Nose. He's a real Rangers man, and it's great that he talks about it in the right context, doesn't he? He says it's a privilege to be here, which it is. It's a privilege to pull on that jersey. It's a privilege to play for this club, and I just wish that all the players would understand that what a privilege they have to actually turn out for our club. And especially some of those underperformers and perhaps serial bottle jobs that let us down last season. And I love it that he wishes he could have been here longer and sooner, and he loves this club so very much, and it's fantastic news for me that Big Leon's there. He isn't going to start, guys. Those of you who are worrying, he's not going to be a starter. He's going to be a squad player. That's what he's going to be used as. And I think Big Leon's happy with that role because, he realizes himself he's going to be 35, 36 next season. He's not getting any younger, but the same token, having an experienced head, having a leader, having someone who knows this club, who loves this club, to help, bring through the youngsters, also to, talk to the new signings as well and bring them up to speed very quickly what is expected at this club. So for me, good deal, certainly. Now, Big Phil had his say about the signing of Leon Balogun, and this is what Big Phil had to say. He said, "I'm delighted Leon has signed a contract extension with the club to remain as a crucial part of our squad next season." And that's what he's saying. He's a part of the squad, and that's what you need. You need a good squad, with 2-3 players for every position. And like I said, he's not going to be a starter. He is going to be a player that will be called upon when needed, rotated. Not perhaps that real starting key figure who I hope is certainly not going to be Connor Goldson next season. More of him later. In my time here so far, I've witnessed firsthand the impact he has not only on the pitch, but off the pitch too, with his valuable experience. He is a talented defender who brings a lot of qualities to the group, and I look forward to continuing to work with him next season. So it's clear, that Big Phil sees him as, a leader on the pitch and a leader off the pitch, an influence on those young lads, an influence across the squad. And for me, this is spot on. It's a great move by Rangers to really tie him down, and the fact that it's now official, that it's all been revealed, is absolutely fantastic for me, and I'm really, really happy that has happened. So great news, obviously, that Big Leon has officially signed that 1-year deal. Now, I alluded to it earlier. Obviously, the video we did release yesterday, about the 5 players that have left the club. Borna Barisic, Ryan Jack, John Lundstrom, John McLaughlin, and Kemar Roof. This frees up an awful lot of wages. This frees up an awful lot of money that can be reinvested into this squad. And I think, you look at that list, and I don't think there's any real surprise there. I think there was talk, wasn't it, earlier this week of, maybe Ryan Jack getting a new contract. That was being rumoured, but obviously that has now proven to be inaccurate, which, I think is best. Look, nothing against Ryan. I really like Ryan as a player. I think he's a very talented player, but he cannot stay fit, and that is always going to hold him back. Same for Kemar Roof. I'm glad that Lundstrom's gone. Lundstrom, for me, slowed this team down. He made it look bad and negative. I think he impacted Diamande's quality of play, and I think getting rid of John Lundstrom is a real positive step in moving this team forward to the next stage for me. So that for me, good move. Now, before we talk about the possible Scottish players that Rangers should be looking at in this transfer window, I do think that, whilst it's fantastic that Niels Coppen is spreading his net far and wide, we should be looking at Scottish players, more of that shortly. I really hope that there are 3 more experienced players on their way out very soon. For me, James Tavernier, Connor Goldson, and Scott Wright have all run their race at Rangers, and the sooner they're gone, the better for me. And people say, we'll only appreciate and miss Tav once he's gone. Well, that's a risk I'm going to prepare to take. His defending has got worse and worse this season. It's not going to get any better. He has lost a yard of pace. He isn't going to get any quicker. And those of you talking about playing him in midfield, he can't play in midfield. He's not fast enough to play in midfield. He's not skillful enough to be a winger. And if you had a choice between playing Oscar Cortez or playing Abdallah Sima or playing James Tavernier as your wide right-hand side player, and, given the fact that Philippe Clement favours the 4-2-3-1 formation, he's not going to change it and play wing back. So you're talking about, Tavernier playing right wing ahead of Cortez or ahead of Sima. And for me, he's just not good enough. He hasn't got their speed, their skill, their talent level. And people talk about, his goals. Yeah, but it's a free kick and a penalty, the majority of his goals. And I'm not being funny, but I'm sure you could find a striker that could take a penalty. I'm sure you can find, a midfielder who can take a free kick. Dio's shown he can take corners. It's time to move on from Tav. And I know there's a lot of you that don't want to hear that. There's a lot of you out there that are going to hate me for saying this, but he's come to the end of his useful time at Rangers. And the longer he stays here, the more he's going to be hated. And that's not good for his legacy at the club, especially obviously as he is a Hall of Famer. Connor Goldson, obviously another one. Hopefully he gets moved on. Goldson and Tav will be tricky to move on. I think unless the Saudis come in, we're going to be stuck with them. And if we're starting with them next season, if you see that team run out on the first day of the season and Tav's at right back and Goldson's at right side centre back, I think it's another season of winning absolutely jack all, if I'm being honest with you. They're that bad. Goldson's lost a yard of pace. He was awful near the end of the season, absolutely dreadful. And I think his injury came at the right time for him, really, to get him out of the firing line. So for me, look, it's time he went. Scott Wright's never been a Rangers player. He's not good enough to play for Rangers. He never has been. And the sooner he's gone, the better. And this kind of links into my next point. People say, well, you've got to keep Scott Wright because of his, keeping up the Scottish quota. Well, that's a really shit reason to keep someone. If you ask me, to keep paying someone wages, to keep paying someone just because they're Scottish is a really bad reason to keep a player. Now, I do think Rangers should be looking at the Scottish market. There's a number of players, obviously, that are out there that are very talented footballers. There's Doig, obviously, who plays in Italy. There's Connor Barron, who's on a free transfer from Aberdeen. We are going to touch on him shortly. There's obviously Lon Shankland. There was talk, obviously, as well of Nisbet. There was talk of Davy Watson, Danny Armstrong, players like that. Now, one player who has been garnering a lot of praise, in particular from former Rangers captain Barry Ferguson, is Lennon Miller, the Motherwell midfielder. And I think we kind of forget sometimes that Lennon is, in fact, only 17 years old, which is absolutely mental that this lad is only 17 years old. And I think, he kind of belies his years at times with the caliber of his play. And, he certainly looks a very talented player. I think it's worth noting as well that actually in the pecking order before he moved to Ibrox, he was actually behind Bailey Rice, which is fairly incredible. But this Miller has had regular first team football and he's looked a very talented player. And Barry Ferguson certainly thinks that this is someone that Rangers should be looking at. Well, what do we know about Lennon Miller? Lennon Lee Miller, he's 17. That is mad, isn't it? He's only 17. He's a regular first teamer and been talked about moves to Rangers, to Celtic, and even south of the border with the talent that he has. He was born in Wishaw. Lorah like that. He's just over 6 foot. He is Scottish. He is a central midfielder. He is under contract still at Motherwell. Fee for him stock to be somewhere in the region of £1.5 to £2 million at this stage of his career. In terms of his appearance record last season for Motherwell, he made 20 appearances in the Scottish Premiership, scoring with 2 assists. He played 5 games in the League Cup with 1 goal, 1 assist, 5 games in the Premiership relegation, the bottom 6, obviously, which Motherwell were involved in and did quite well, and 2 appearances in the Scottish Cup. Overall, for a 17-year-old lad, he made 32 appearances, scoring 1 goal and 3 assists, playing over 2,000 minutes of football. Valuable experience, and he's poised on the ball. He uses the ball well. He can tackle. He can play defensive midfield, attacking midfield, central midfield. He certainly is an absolute all-rounder and Scottish, of course, as well. He's got football pedigree. His dad was a footballer. He is a very, very talented player. So, he's certainly someone, like I said, that Barry Ferguson thinks we should be looking at. And someone I think we should be looking at, going out and getting some of this young Scottish talent that fits that model, doesn't he? I mean, it's certainly someone who does fit this trading model. He's someone that you hold on to for 3-4 years. He gets to 2021. He could be worth an absolute chunk of change. He is a very talented player. Now, Lennon Miller has been talking about the praise that he's got from the former Rangers captain Barry Ferguson. I mean, let's face it, if anyone knows a midfielder, it's our Barry. Now, this is what Lennon Miller had to say. He said, I'm a wee bit young to remember Barry as a player, but I know he was a Rangers captain and was a really good player. So to have someone like that give you compliments, it was nice. People like that who have played the game at the level he has obviously know what they're talking about. I just need to focus on myself and keep trying to get better every day. It's obviously nice to have people talking about you, but I'm not really interested in that. It's about keeping my head down and focusing on my work at Motherwell and seeing what happens. Now, obviously, there is this interest from a number of clubs this summer, and I'm certainly hoping that Rangers are one of those clubs that are taking a long, hard look at Lennon. Like I said, he's talented, he's young, he's Scottish, and like I said, he's one of those players that would count towards that homegrown quota. And look, I'm pretty fed up of this argument that we're keeping hold of certain players like the Scott Wright of this world just because he fulfills the Scottish quota. That is a really genuinely dreadful reason to keep hold of him. And certainly, the likes of Miller and Shankland and Watson and Armstrong are all players that I hope we're taking this look at. And I do think we need to get away from this snobbery which there seems to be at the club towards Scottish players. There does seem to be a kind of it's a Scottish player. Let's not bother with that. And I know, at times, yes, we may get slightly overcharged because we are Rangers at the end of the day and everyone hates us. We don't care. But, sometimes you've got to just pay that premium, bring that player in. Walter Smith, greatest Rangers manager ever, was never afraid to bring in a Scottish player. To some degree, Graham Souness as well, never afraid to bring in a Scottish player. So for me, I do think we should be looking at some of these Scottish talents. Now, another player that I am very, very, very positive about, and I think would add to our squad. Barron has had a very good season this season. He is a very talented young player. I'm trying to bring a picture of him at the moment, but it's not cooperating my computer. Let's hope it comes up in a moment. Here we go. Here is Connor Barron now. Now, what do we know about Connor Barron? Like I said, he is out of contract at this moment in time, so it would only cost a compensation fee. Because he could be a possible one, another possible player. He's played a number of games this season with Aberdeen, and in particular, he looked very good in that semi-final. against Celtic, he actually outplayed that Celtic midfield. And after all, that's what we need to get into this team. We really do need another very talented central midfield that's going to run those Old Firm games. And Barron is someone who will understand the Old Firm game. He understands how to play against Celtic. And like I said, he played exceptionally well against them in their semi-final, which I think Aberdeen should have won. Barry Ferguson said of this about Connor. He said, Connor is another. When I've watched him play this summer on a compensation fee, what a snip. I believe another central midfielder is a must this summer. Someone who is going to plant his backside right in the centre area and anchor the midfield. In modern day language, it's a number 6. Someone to protect the back line and start moves. Get that? I think we could see that with the best of Nico Raskin beside Diamande. The pair of them really got in Celtic's faces in the Scottish Cup final. So, look, it is possibility. Yes, he is an Aberdeen player, but at the end of the day, Aberdeen cannot put a spanner in the works this time because he is out of contract. So it's not like they can try and block that, because we all know they'd want to block it because they hate us. We hate them as well. So Connor Barron, another talent that I think that we should certainly be having a long, hard look at. And I do think we should be going for Scottish players like Miller and Barron. Well, guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. As always, on the way out, if you can smash that like. And number 2, remember always, we are the people.